The Democratic Alliance leading a protest in Midrand. That's here in Gauteng today over what it says is the collapse of water delivery in the Gauteng province. The opposition party says the protest action comes after it was inundated by complaints by residents over an erratic water supply. Now, party leader John Steenhuisen will lead the residents in the protest against what the DA calls the utter neglect by the ANC. For the latest, let's talk to Ziyanda Ngcobo. She's our senior reporter, but let's listen in. In fact, John is speaking right now.
National Department of Water Affairs' inability to prepare for water shortages has meant that many citizens now live without water. If people want to permanently address the issue of water shortages here, then they need to permanently remove the ANC from office and give a party that's got a track record of getting things done. This doesn't happen in DA-run municipalities. You have your occasional outages and breakages, but it is an epidemic across Gauteng, water shortages, water shedding, and it shouldn't be taking place. The dams are 80% full. If Cape Town can keep their taps running with 12% in the dams, why can't Gauteng keep the taps running with 80% in the dams?
John Willimpompi, if you're standing next to Solim Simanga here, who was executive mayor of Tshwane. In my recall, he also failed to fix the water issues in Hammanskraal. The people of Hammanskraal still have brown water coming through their taps. Randall Williams is the mayor there. So you're not different from those at Luthuli House. You're failing to give the residents of Johannesburg water. You are made of the same cloth. You're both failing. So why should South Africans vote for you?
Well, I think that you can hardly compare a government that's been in a minority government for less than 2 years, then pushed out by an administrative grab that's been declared unlawful and unconstitutional, makes it difficult. And that's exactly the case you're making to Tshwane. Give us 5 years of uninterrupted DA government and we'll show you how we get things done. It's how we're getting things done in DA municipalities around the country. You don't have this in Kocha. Cape Town beat day zero. It doesn't happen in Midvaal because Peter Texera and Bongani Baloyi and their team have been spending money on infrastructure. We've got to spend money on infrastructure there. Getting budgets through in a minority government is very difficult. We want to be able to give our own majority there so that our team there can get things done.
Do you know who Mondi Majola is?
No, I have no idea who he is. Is he a friend of yours?
Mondi Majola was killed in the Phoenix massacre.
Yes.
By racists.
Yes.
His court case is sitting today in Phoenix.
Yes.
Your party put up placards whom people have had mixed views about. Some saying that you can't call those vigilantes, allegedly, who killed people heroes, as you are saying in those posters. Do you regret those
That's
posters?
not what the posters say at all. And quite frankly, the people are heroes. The people who are heroes in this are the South Africans who, when the government retreated and the SAPS retreated, stood up and defended the rule of law, defended the Constitution, and defended their lives and livelihoods. Those are heroes, people who stood up against the lawlessness. And I will call them heroes, and I will continue to call them heroes, because they didn't retreat in the face of danger. They didn't hide away like the SAPS and Bheki Cele's people when things got real. They stepped up and stepped to it. The President himself called them heroes in his own newsletter, and I concur fully with that. Anybody who stood up for the rule of law, for the Constitution, which are founding principles of our party, I will continue to call heroes.
Mr. Steenhuisen, I think you are being a bit disingenuous here, because if you're saying those people who are heroes, be specific. Those who were heroes, according to the DA, were of the Indian community.
Not at all. That's not true. I'm not being disingenuous at all. That is not true. There were black, white, and coloured and Indian South Africans who stood on those barricades when this government retreated in the face of violence that was of their own internal making.
So who are the racists in Phoenix? We're being very specific. In Phoenix, it was mainly the Indian community that actually took matters into their own hands.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you fundamentally. There were over 300 deaths across KwaZulu-Natal.
That's also not true, Mr. Steenhuisen.
There were over 300 deaths across KwaZulu-Natal. Go and check your figures.
No, in Phoenix, we're being specific about Phoenix, because this is where the posters have been put up, Mr. Steenhuisen, and this is why your party is being accused of being racially insensitive and out of touch, Mr. Steenhuisen, for actually putting that up. If you say the ANC called them racist, who exactly did the ANC call racist? Let's speak race here.
Let's be specific about who the ANC called racist. Let's be specific how other parties marched through Phoenix holding up posters saying that all Indians are racist. Who stereotyped that community in Phoenix? It was Bheki Cele, it was Zandile Gumede, it was Jomo Sibiya, it was everyone in the ANC who painted that entire community with the same brush. Yes, there were vigilantes in that community, and the law must take its course. That's what I'm saying. They're not my heroes. They didn't defend the rule of law. They didn't defend the Constitution. They took the law into their own hands. The heroes in that situation are the South Africans who stood on the front line. And what did the ANC's response? They painted the entire community of Phoenix as racist Indians, marching down the streets holding placards saying all Indians are racist. Those people have got a lot to answer for. These are individuals and people in that community who stood up for themselves and stood up when this government let them down. The only people calling people racists were the ANC and the EFF in that instance. We're saying you don't paint an entire community with the same brush. There were vigilante acts from black South Africans, there were vigilante acts from Indian South Africans, just as there were heroic acts from black South Africans as there were from Indian South Africans in that community. I know that because unlike you, I was on the ground in Phoenix.
Oh, I definitely was on the ground, Mr. Steenhuisen. One last one from me.
Mr. Steenhuisen, don't go into personalizing people. You don't do that as a leader. You need to apologize for that.
No, I'm not going to apologize because I was on the ground. I saw exactly what was going on.
So were we, Mr. Steenhuisen, and which is exactly why, we saw what we saw, Mr. Steenhuisen, is a divided community along racial lines. And it was Francois Rogers, your KZN leader, who said the ANC is being opportunistic by using race. Why does the DA hate dealing with race when race is something that's fundamental to our society?
We're confronting the racism. We're confronting the racism by calling out the stereotyping that was done by the ANC and its leadership in Phoenix. All they've done...
So there are no racial undertones with what happened in Phoenix. Let's be very specific here.
I'm saying to you that it is wrong. There were absolutely racial incidents in Phoenix. Absolutely. But you don't take a paintbrush and then paint the entire community of Phoenix as bloodthirsty, racist Indians, as the ANC have done. There were heroic people in that community who stood up and protected the elderly. They protected young children. They protected businesses in the face of a government that completely lost control of the situation because they cannot even get the basics like policing right, just as they can't get the basics of water right here in Gauteng.
But Mr. Steenhuisen, as you say, there were, in fact, you know that there was no looting that happened in Phoenix. Most of the people that were killed in Phoenix were people who were passing by of African descent by nature. And there was also racial undertones, which are real. As Ziyanda is saying, we were also on the ground. There were people that were killed for no reason. What do you say about those? And as a politician, you should know that perceptions mean a lot. What do you think the families of those that lost their loved ones are going to say when they see up those posters where you say people that killed their loved ones are heroes?
I didn't say the people who killed loved ones are heroes. Do not put words in my mouth. I said quite fundamentally that those people who upheld the rule of law and respected justice and protected their communities lawfully during the time are heroes. Anyone who broke the law is no hero of mine. I'm a firm believer in the rule of law, in constitutionalism, and standing up for the right thing to do. Anyone who breaks the law is no friend of mine. I'm not friends with criminals. I'm not an ANC politician. I am firmly on the side of all of those who stand up for the rule of law, just like those people were. Yes, there were vigilante acts on both sides in Phoenix. Yes, there were people that died on both sides in Phoenix, Indian and black. And I think it's wrong to single out a single community and simply paint them with a single brush. I think it is stereotyping of the worst order, and I think that fans racial tensions far more than anything that a poster does, pointing out the obvious fact that the ANC chose to racialize the issue from the get-go and to use it as an issue to try and drive a wedge in that community.
Mr. Steenhuisen, since you want to keep telling us that you were on the ground in Phoenix, then give us a diagnostic report, according to the DA, as to what was the cause of what happened in Phoenix, especially because, as my colleague here has said, there was no looting in Phoenix. You've admitted that there were racial undertones, so where did it start and who did it start with? Because you need to attend to the racial tensions in Phoenix, Mr. Steenhuisen.
That community has lived side by side in peace for many, many years. Many, many years. Bambai, Amawoti, people shop, live, work and play in Phoenix. There was no looting in Phoenix because the community came together and stood together to ensure that looting did not happen at the Phoenix. And people died on both sides because there were people who took the law into their own hands. Those people are criminals. They are no friends of mine. They are no heroes of mine.
Why did people die? A diagnostic,
people died
please.
because the government lost control of law and order. Its most basic duty is to keep South Africans safe on the ground and in their homes and in their workplaces. When the police retreated in the way they did and allowed criminals criminals to take the initiative there, that is the reason why things spiraled out of control. If there was law and order, they wouldn't have had a situation where things spiraled out of control. The police were wholly absent from the situation. I was in Phoenix for those days. I saw the occasional policeman driving past. What were they doing? They were waving at the people on the barricade saying, thank you for what you're doing, because they knew that they had no capacity whatsoever to be able to rein in the looting. And I think as South Africans, we should be terrified about the lack of ability of the South African Police Service to keep citizens safe, because it is a fundamental duty of government to keep citizens safe. So my diagnostic is that situation would never have got out of control had on day one this government, this police service under Bheki Cele, got out there and done their job of maintaining law and order. Where there's a breakdown of law and order, it creates a vacuum, and into that vacuum steps crime and criminality, as we saw with the widespread looting and the damage that was done. It's that behavior that we must all condemn, but I don't think it's right.
Well, why use this as a politicking tool, Mr. Steenhuisen? This is something that's so sensitive. People have died. Don't you think as the DA, you're actually undermining exactly what you've just said?
Not at all.
You're taking a matter where people have died. What does this have to do with local government elections and people dying? Please explain.
Well, I think safety and crime and security is a very key fundamental of a local government election. And when a government cannot keep its citizens safe, they cannot enjoy any one of the other rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. So when a government fails to do its primary job of keeping people safe and maintaining law and order, and allows people to take the law in their own hands, that is a failure of government, and that is a failure that should be punished at the ballot boxes. I find it quite ironic that you now accuse the DA of politics on this matter. The media was very silent when the ANC was marching down the street and with the EFF and others holding signs up that said, all Indians are racist, bloodthirsty Indians, we're going to get our retribution. I think there's a slight imbalance in the analysis here. The politicking started when Bheki Cele, the ANC, Zandile Gomedi, the EFF went into Phoenix and started trying to paint an entire community with one brush. I think that's wrong, and that is exactly what I'm speaking out. And I'm not going to retreat from the fact that any law-abiding South African that stands on the side of law and order, maintaining public order, ensuring that the law is abided by, are heroes. And absolutely they were the heroes. The villains in this piece was this government who let the people down by allowing a spiraling out of control into lack of law and order.
Mr. Steenhuisen, I'm going to put a face to this whole debate. I asked you about Mondri Machol. He's deceased. His matter is in court today. He was killed. Yes. An innocent boy passing by Phoenix was killed. There was a lady, I'm not going to mention names, coming from work, a corporate lady, driving from work, passing Phoenix, going home, who was stopped and almost killed. I think you listened to those hearings where Mam Khawula of the EFF was speaking, where she even cried. The DA has had racial issues within your own ranks. You've had racial issues, particularly tweets of your current federal chairperson, Helen Zille. And it's issues that have been raised in the party that you are battling with race. And for the DA to put up such a poster, which clearly signifies that you are targeting a particular race for their votes, further fueling the ideal that you are perpetuating racial divisions in the country. Is it there?
True. It's simply not true. The heroes are black, white, Indian and coloured South Africans who stood up for the rule of law. The president himself called those South Africans heroes in his newsletter.
Why didn't you put up that poster up in Soweto where last September was protecting Maponya Mo?
It's a KZN campaign, and KZN are running that particular issue.
Why put it in Phoenix? Because it further fuels racial tension.
It's going to be going up in places around Durban. But let me just...
Why don't you put it up in Soweto?
Can I just finish the point and ask the question you asked me originally, if I may? The real racists here, and the real people who've got a problem with race, are the ANC and the EFF, because they target it. Let me tell you, I've went and sat with black families who had lost loved ones. I went and sat with Indian families who lost loved ones. The pain and hurt is on both sides. But when you try and paint it that it was only one-sided or only one particular race group was targeted and another wasn't, you start to create a huge problem and a racial divide there. What happened in Phoenix was unacceptable. Any crime and criminality that resulted from either vigilantism or looting is condemned in the strongest possible term. But what I don't think is acceptable is to see the racial scapegoating that's happening and the targeting of Indian South Africans by the police minister, by others, and singling them out and saying that they're bloodthirsty and they're racist. There are good men and women of peace in Phoenix, and we saw that during those particular unrest.
Give me a figure of how many black people are butchered racially in Phoenix.
I don't know what the figure is,
but Indian people are butchered in
there was around 30 people that were killed.
Indian people, you don't know black people.
No, I don't. I said there was 30. The cumulative number was about 30. And I'm not sure what the breakdown was, but any loss of life, whether it's an Indian or black South African or a white South African, is a loss of life too many. And we shouldn't be trying to put value on one life over another.
Why do you think then that these posters have been misinterpreted, if I understand you correctly, that they've been misinterpreted? Why do you think these posters have been misinterpreted? Surely this is an indictment on the manner in which South Africans view the DA and how the DA manages racial politics, not only internally but externally, because clearly South Africans have interpreted this to say the heroes here are the Indians. Why?
Well, I don't know, because maybe
well, you should try to know why, because you're trying to reach out to people. You're trying to reach out to your constituency, so you can't say you don't know. Are you not speaking to people on the ground? You're putting up posters, trying to attract the electorate, and yet the electorate is telling you, DA, this is not it, and then you're saying you don't know. That's also an indictment, Mr. Steenhuisen.
Can I speak now? You can allow me to talk?
Yes, you may.
Great, thank you very much. We put up the posters because we wanted to make it very, very clear that we're not going to allow racial scapegoating to happen in South Africa, and that we respect all South Africans who stand on the side of law and order and standing up for their communities. Never once have I said or praised anybody involved in any crime or criminality. I've been very, very clear right from the beginning. Anyone involved in crime, anyone involved in vigilantism, anyone involved in looting is part of the problem. The solution is South Africans standing up and standing together to fight the scourge of crime. And I don't think it's right that people, when they are abandoned by the SAPS, are allowed to simply be written off now by the ANC and others and calling them racist. I think it is wrong.
Clearly, Mr. Steenhuisen, as now you can see from this debate alone, you could have seen with the reaction on social media that you are clearly in the wrong, especially, in as far as other people are concerned. Do you regret? Are you going to apologize? Are you going to take down the posters? Because clearly you are dividing the community, which is exactly an antithesis of what you are saying you are trying to fight.
I'm never going to apologize for calling ordinary South Africans who stand up for law and order, who protect the rule of law, and who are on the side of right. I'm never going to apologize for calling them heroes. They are heroes, whether they be black, white, Indian or colored, as we saw during those terrible days in KwaZulu-Natal. They are the heroes because they stepped up when government stepped away, and they are heroes.
Despite the divisions that it's clearly causing.
Divisions seem to be being caused by...
Why have you decided to, in the words of Phumzile van Dam, launch an onslaught against a particular... No. You're not going to tell us what to ask and not to ask for. Don't do that.
Mrs. van Dam is not a member of my party. She's not a public representative. She's not my problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Steenhuisen. Well, Toli, that's John Steenhuisen facing a barrage of questions, as you would have heard, about those posters in Phoenix, which has caused an uproar regarding whether or not the DA has acted in an irresponsible manner by putting up those posters. Those posters, Toli, two of them, it says the ANC called you racist. The second one says the DA recognizes you as heroes. And so this has been interpreted as the DA as having actually praising the Indian community for their bravery, whilst there were black members of the black community who perished.